The case study was based on Alex, a 13-year-old male in our Year 8 physical education class. He is based in the northern suburbs of Melbourne and lives with his mum, sister and his dog. He enjoys spending time on his computer, playing online games and socialising in online gaming communities. This sedentary lifestyle has led Alex to become overweight. Alex does not have a lot of confidence in his abilities within physical education classes and is regularly absent. He has said that he hates sport because he doesn't think he's very good at it. Alex and his peers completed a baseline screening of fitness and motor skills prior to the commencement of the Year 8 athletics unit. Alex performed average in the motor skill area, which was on a similar level to his classmates. However, most of his fitness test results were below standard. Of particular concern was Alex's progressive aerobic cardiovascular endurance run, otherwise known as PACER test. He scored at the lower end of the healthy fitness zone, which has led us to having to address these weaknesses within our lesson. The PACER test measures for aerobic power, which includes endurance, fitness, and performance quality. The purpose of the test is to run as far as possible at an increasing pace. The test gets progressively more difficult, meaning that students will need to increase their speed whilst maintaining their endurance and stamina. The test is fairly easy to administer and gives teachers an understanding of where their students are at. Alex's area of need is his aerobic power, and this is what we will be addressing in our lesson.
During the introduction, we'll make sure that students are aware of the learning intention and success criteria, and we'll also prompt them to think about the benefits of regular exercise. We then move into our warm-up activity, which is chain tiggy. However, it's slightly altered Plants vs Zombies to suit Alex. During this time, we will make sure that students understand the importance of warming up and why we do it, and also just going back to why it is important to improve our aerobic power. First activity is Indian file, and some of the key teaching points are to make sure that students are sprinting when they're going from the back of the line to the front of the line, and some of the prompts and cues are to make sure that they know what to do by asking them where to run once they reach the back of the line, and also making sure that their heart rates are up and that they're putting their most effort in. The next aerobic activity are relay races, where students will be in partners and one partner will be running up and down to the other polo dot and back, whilst the other one is doing the star jumps. And the key teaching points of this activity is to make sure that they know that they should always be moving to improve on their aerobic power, and also some of the prompts and cues just to make sure they understand what they're doing is to ask them before they go off to do the activity what they should be doing whilst their partner is running, and why they should always be moving. We then go into the closure, where kids come back and form a semicircle in front of you, and we revisit the learning intention of why we're actually focusing on aerobic power and improving our endurance. And whilst we do this, we ask kids to reflect on how they are feeling, 1 being horrible and 5 being amazing, just to make sure that they are aware of why we're doing this to improve our fitness.
So our lesson involves all the students coming and sitting down on the oval in front of the teachers, with the teachers facing into the sun. This is so the students don't get distracted or don't have to squint when looking at us. Once we've explained the learning intention and the success criteria for the day, we move into explaining the warm-up drill and what they'll be getting out of the lesson. We also explain that as the class is quite a high intensity class and their heart rates will be increasing as the lesson continues, it's crucial for warming up their muscles. Obviously, as a lot of these kids are not the most physically active students, having a warm-up game that really triggers their engagement is super crucial. That's why we chose to play chain tiggy, but also why we chose to adapt chain tiggy into a game called Plants vs Zombies. Obviously this is a computer game, so we think that the students will be able to connect with the game more and might want to get engaged more than they would if it was just a regular ball or other PE game. So we must consider as teachers that these students aren't the most physically active students, so having something that gets their heart rate up at the start of the lesson is important, as they will be able to continue working at a high rate throughout the rest of the lesson. And then obviously if students are injured or unable to participate in the game, the teachers can come up with other ideas and ways to get the students moving. For example, some stretching or skipping or hopping or things like that. Before we play Plants vs Zombies, however, we will have all the students lining up on the baseline, and they'll be facing us, and we will run through some stationary stretches and dynamics to ensure all their muscles are properly stretched. After we play Plants vs Zombies or Chain Tiggy, we'll have all the students come into a semicircle again, so we can explain the main body of activity that we'll be doing throughout the lesson. This involves Indian file, which the students run around the oval and the person at the back has to run to the front. This obviously is a good game for students who might not like running as much, because if they are at the back and they're finding it quite challenging when they run to the front, they're able to slow it down and change the pace of the running. They can also choose what pace they want to run at. It also creates or makes the students become or work more as a team, obviously because they have to try and stay really close to each other. This will go for roughly 3 laps, or until all students have gone to the front 3 times. So this will get them learning some teamwork and working as a group. The students will run as fast as they possibly can to the front of the line. So this is working on their speed and sprint work, which will in turn also improve their aerobic power. If students are carrying injuries or unable again to contribute or do running, they can participate in a HIIT class or a HIIT drill, where we can just give them some squats or skipping or hopping similar to the warm-up. They also can help the teachers set up the next drills or the polydots on the ground for the next activity, or give the group encouragement. And if worse comes to worse, they're also able to walk around the oval. The next activity we have the students doing is relay races. So after Indian file finishes, we'll have them coming in to the semicircle again. This time we will ask them to pair up with someone who's of a similar height. This will hopefully allow for the groups to be quite even, as we want them working in a work to rest ratio in the next relay races. One student will, or both students start on the baseline, and one will run to the other end of the oval around the polydot and back. Whilst that is happening, the other student will be doing star jumps to keep their heart rate up. Again, if a student can't participate in this activity, they might pair up with someone else who can't participate and can do something else. Obviously, some students won't be super keen about the idea of running, so we hope that a relay race will make them enjoy it a little bit more, or ignite a competitive fire that some of them would have from their gaming that they enjoy doing. After this has finished, so the closure of the lesson, we'll have all the students come back in to the semicircle, sitting down where they did at the start. Here we will revisit everything that we went through in the lesson, and ask the students to give themselves a number between 1 and 5, so on their hands, of how they think the lesson went. This will be able to give the teachers an overall or a small understanding of how the students found the lesson. And obviously, as a lot of the students might not be super keen on running, it's super important that the teachers give them all really positive feedback and encouragement to ensure that they don't get too down on themselves and that they continue participating in physical activity. That's pretty much the lesson plan.
Lesson plan design provides Alex and his fellow peers the opportunity to improve their aerobic power, which is the fitness component targeted within the PACER test from the previous fitness and motor skills test. The lesson that is designed incorporates an inclusive warm-up that involves levelling to appeal to Alex and his gaming lifestyle. This will ensure that all students, including Alex, are constantly moving, keeping their work to rest ratio, which is a summary of the time spent physically working compared to the time they spend resting or recovering. Therefore, this warm-up keeps their work to rest ratio between 1 and 1 to 2. Moving into the main body of the lesson incorporates Indian file, which is a conditioning exercise where a group of runners jog single file at a steady pace, and then the last runner in the line must sprint to the front of the line, taking the pace of the first runner, and so on. This activity is classed as continuous, as students are constantly running, which can develop their cardiovascular system through oxygen transport towards their working muscles within the body. This activity also over time leads to adaptations within the cardiovascular system, increasing the size of the left ventricle, leading to increased cardiac output and decreased recovery heart rate. The incorporation of Indian file can lead to improvements within the respiratory system, including increased pulmonary diffusion through increased sites of gaseous exchange. The next activity includes all students participating in mini relays. While one student is running, the other one will be completing star jumps along the side. Within this activity, the students are constantly working on the move, targeting their aerobic power. This leads to increases within their cardiovascular system, such as their increase in heart rate, which is increased as a result of increased demand of oxygen from the working muscles, and their stroke volume, which is increasing as a result of their heart contracting more forcefully as the intensity of the activity increases. The relays can also lead to increases in their respiratory system, which is increased respiratory rate, and tidal volume, which increases as a result of a build-up of carbon dioxide levels within the blood. This lesson will address Alex's needs as he is an avid gamer, and the use of Plants vs Zombies incorporates the aspects of gaming within the lesson and can allow him to feel more included and increase his participation rate, as he is usually absent from the classes. The inclusion of relays allow Alex and his fellow teammates to include levels within the activity. For every time you switched from star jumps to running, you move up a level, creating a competitive drive within Alex and his peers. Overall, the lesson takes into consideration and focuses on improving aerobic power, which was identified as Alex's area of weakness as he performed below average on the pacer test. The activities throughout the lessons are inclusive and enjoyable.